For the last 5 years, I've actually done dual agency, fire and police, as well as EMT. So it's pretty interesting switching back and forth, but I'm loving it.
Okay, so there's 2 agencies in the state of California. Yep. You work for a agency, one of those agencies, and it's actually one of the larger agencies that handles dual roles.
Correct.
So some of the time you work fire and some of the time you work police.
Yep.
Can you talk about that? I mean, is that weird? Like, how does that all work, man?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We are one of 2 in California. There's a few on the East Coast, I believe in Michigan. We're the largest in the country. So basically how it works is we bid yearly where you want to go. It's based on seniority.
Okay.
But everyone is trained as a full-time police officer, firefighter 2, engineer actually, and EMT. So
so even engineer.
Yeah. So everybody can pump and drive every rig in the department.
Okay. So I just learned a little bit about this. Like, this is a lot actually. Now that I'm hearing this, like you being able to pump, that there's a lot that goes into that skill set and that qualification. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit, but I guess I'm a little caught off guard because that's a lot of stuff, but I guess it makes sense if you have to do both, that you have to be ready for both.
Yeah.
And to that extent. Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
I'm tripping a little bit.
Yeah. So how it works is, if we're working patrol, we carry our fire turnouts in the patrol car.
Okay.
If a structure fire comes out, pull over. Usually, ideally, one guy will change while the other guy's covering you, because it's kind of vulnerable changing out of your body armor and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Change into your fire turnouts, and then you'll cover the other guy, and then you'll respond to the structure fire. Once the fire is done, walk back, put your patrol stuff on. You're back on the streets for the rest of the shift. Yeah.
Right back.
It's happened, and you're really sweaty, and it's kind of awful, but okay. It's fun. It's awesome.
So hold on for a second. So when you say somebody's covering you while somebody isn't, or while somebody's changing, and vice versa, are you rolling 2 to a car?
No, we're not 2 to a car.
So it's 2 units that are covering one another.
Yeah. We'll usually have 6 patrol units respond to a structure fire. So ideally, if we have time, if it's not like a really ripping fire, I'll say, hey, you go ahead and change. I'm going to stand in uniform real quick, just because it's awkward as a police officer taking off your body armor, setting your gun down and things like that. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So I bet for people listening, that might just kind of blow them away. Like, you're a firefighter and you're a police officer. Can you talk about the training a little bit to kind of get there? Like, what's the academy like? What's the ramp up to this like? Because I know both firefighters and I know both police officers, and I know that the academy process and the training process is very intensive for them on both ends. How does that work in your particular agency?
This is exactly the same as everywhere else. So in total, our training is 2.5 years to get fully what they call 10-8, ready for service, solo officer to work both fire and police at a full capacity. So our EMT is 8 weeks. Our fire academy is 16 weeks, and then our police academy is 26 weeks. And then we have patrol FTO, which is 4 months. And then we actually have fire FTO, which is 6 months, including then the pump operator school and driving school and things like that for the engine. That
speaks to the engineer piece, which is if you were to go through the fire academy and become a firefighter, going to engineer school is a whole nother deal. Yeah. That's a whole other academy.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's, promotions up from there if you want to become a captain or whatever else, to my knowledge. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's intensive, very intensive.
Yeah.
What's the washout rate?
I don't know a percentage. We lose a lot of people though.
I can imagine. That's some serious shit you're talking about. First off, you got to be cut out for this job. So there's a physical piece, there's an emotional piece, there's a psychological piece that goes into this, but there's also, you got to be skilled. Like, there's math. If you're going to become an engineer, like what I understand and what I've been told and what I've experienced, standing on the side of a truck at a structure fire, understanding how much water is on your truck, what hose line you're running, how long is that hose line? Like how much water is coming in, maybe being cycled in from a hydrant or something, how much water goes out. I mean, I don't understand all the things, but I do know that takes a lot of learning, right? And testing and application to be able to get to. Now, I mean, then you switch it over to, okay, now I need to be able to write a traffic ticket.
Yeah.
or whatever.
It's pretty interesting. We get a lot of people that will in their head say, that sounds great. It's the best of both worlds because I'm only hated half the time. It's kind of like the running joke.
Who doesn't love firefighters, as I've said before. Yeah.
Get the full 5-finger wave instead of the single finger. But we get a lot of people that will come on and they'll be like, yeah, I want to do both. It sounds great. And then they'll get to, for example, in Fire Academy, they'll get to confined space where you have to get real in touch with yourself in really dark, cramped up places. And you're like, I hate this. I'm done. Or they'll work patrol and they're like, it's too dangerous. I don't want to talk to this person. I don't want to do this. So we have people retiring faster than we can train people, which is, I mean, it's kind of to be expected with a 2.5-year training.
I would expect that,
yeah. So
playing
catch up.
So do you guys, I mean, I have to imagine that does create some sort of an issue sometimes in terms of having enough coverage to do all the things that may be going on in the city that you work within. Does that mean you have to be really in touch with other agencies and doing, kind of multi-agency work? Or, I mean, how does that work? Or are you guys pretty much set up? You guys cover yourselves?
We try to cover ourselves as much as we can. But we will definitely call for mutual aid. And it's happened where at night, I mean, if we get a rip-in structure fire, sometimes all of patrol gets decimated working that fire.
Right away,
and we need there's still police work going on. There's still calls for service going on. So we'll call for mutual aid or we'll call for fire mutual aid and keep our patrol officers on the streets. But
interesting.
It's definitely a balancing act. There's certain times where we're like right on the cusp of teetering over. This is too much for us, but we make it work.
So. Right. Okay. All right. So that gives us a little bit of kind of like insight as to kind of what you're doing on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
And so currently, what are you spending your most time in? Is it firefighting or police work?
Right now, I'm assigned to the firehouse.
Okay.
It's not my favorite. I get bored, but I love police work. So
we'll talk about that. Yeah. So, I mean, you chose this department and you knew what you were getting into, but maybe talk about that a little bit. Like, did you know that going in? Or, I mean, did you expect that going in, or was it something you discovered along the way? Like, how does that work out?
I definitely didn't know it before. I'd always been interested in police work, but I also really like working with my hands. And you get to do that a lot with fire. You get to tinker on stuff, work with chainsaws, take things apart. So I like that aspect. But now that I'm assigned to the firehouse, there's a lot of downtime.
Okay.
And so I kind of have I got to keep my mind busy thing, which is why I like patrol. I'm like, well, I can drive over here, talk to this person, or go over here and do this, or walk this street and look for something. Whereas in the firehouse, it's like, nope, you're stuck in this house for 24 hours. We work 24s. And, so I'm just getting my master's right now. Kill time.
Okay.
Out.
Okay. Yeah. That's smart.
Yeah.
What are you working on? What's the master's in?
Criminal justice.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then go back to patrol next year and get back at it.
Got you. So, all right. So there's a plan. I love that.
There's a plan, but you know what? It's good for your mindset, and your mentality. Working patrol. Working both. It's very stressful. You hit those hot calls that kind of stick with you, but working patrol, just constantly looking over your shoulder. Who's looking at me? What is this person doing? Do they have a weapon? By the end of the day, you're just kind of wiped. So it's our agency. What I really like is you have that option. Like, hey man, I'm really burned out this year. I'm going to go to the firehouse for a year, clear my head. Not to say that it's not hard.
I got you.
It's just a different mindset. Yeah. And then you come back, you're refreshed and ready to go. So.
I mean, there's no secret. I mean, let's be honest. The last couple of years have been really tough to be a police officer. If you're a police officer, they're unfortunately have not gotten a lot of good press, and they're not well appreciated, I think, by a lot of people. However, there are a lot of people that do appreciate that, including me, and the work that gets put in and whatnot. But I think that, the things that you see and hear, if you're paying attention to what police departments are going through right now, I think I can try and understand what you're saying there. And again, I've said earlier, but I'll say it again. Like, who doesn't love a firefighter, right? Somebody that shows up when at your worst moment, is there to help you, save you,
rescues a cat.
Rescues the cat from the tree, but also, whatever, uses, this cool equipment and whatever to help somebody through a really tragic time, get them out of a car or whatever. Yeah. Versus the police department, and particularly if you're trying to stay proactive in law enforcement. So it's got to be a very tough thing to do and a very tough act to balance.